Hello there. Do you like crabs? Man, how the fuck I'm down here without being able to breathe?
I really enjoyed Another Crab's Treasure. Not only from its adorable, beautiful graphics, its very simple yet fun gameplay, I really think this is a kind of a starting point for people who have not played a Souls-like game before. This game is difficult, but it definitely is a lot more manageable than others. But even if the game is still too difficult, Another Crab's Treasure has a ton of accessibility options, including a one-shot gun, which is hilarious. I love that. If you don't touch any of these settings, the game is pretty much on its standard difficulty, on its intended difficulty. But even if you're still having trouble with the game, there are a bunch of accessibility options which are out there. Me personally, I don't mind there being difficulty options in these kind of games. I understand a lot of people are against them. I will always play it on whatever the intended difficulty is because I do like these games. I have learned how to play these games. I have beaten almost every From Software game. Fuck you, Sekiro. I hate Sekiro.
I truly am the king of the monkeys. Fuck.
I'm just kidding. Sekiro is a really good game. I'm just really bad at it. Another Crab's Treasure just really gets the vibe down. It understands what a Souls-like is. Even down to progression, the way you traverse through levels, unlocking shortcuts left and right, fighting these crazy bosses. Something that was a bit surprising is the narrative in the game. I think Another Crab's Treasure might have my favorite story from any Souls-like game. At least one that's on a surface level. This is more of an in-your-face story. At the start of the game, the story is just kind of this cute little adorable, hey, fucking A, you didn't pay your taxes, get your house ripped away from you. Oh, fuck, now we gotta go on this adventure to get my shell home back? It's a neat little premise, and it definitely expands throughout the game. Dude, towards the end of this game, whoo! All I'm saying is the story definitely is not one that I would ignore. I would definitely be paying attention and soaking up as much as you can because it really is special. I'm not really a story guy, as you can probably tell in my other videos. I don't give a shit about story. But when one is good enough to where even I start to pay attention to it, I think that's saying something. Another quick thing that I need to just mention before I get into the gameplay is the music. Bro, the music in this game goes fucking hard. And also, it goes very soft. And sometimes, it may even make you shed a tear. Each and every location is paired with this beautiful piece of music. I've been listening to the soundtrack just outside of the game just because I think it's really nice. Some of the ending tracks were really good, and honestly, it made me feel like the ending and story all coming together, it felt more impactful than a lot of other games. And after playing Dead Island 2 with how atrocious that ending is and atrocious that story was, it's really nice to go from that to a game where they actually tried and actually put care and thought into it. Alright, so we'll get into some gameplay stuff. I'm not going to go super in-depth with this because I'm not good at explaining this shit. I can say it does feel like a Souls-like. You've got your dodge roll, you've got your parrying, you've got your slower melee combat, you know, more like you have to think about, you can't just spam click, you can't just hack and slash your way to win. That's not how it works. You have to be dodge rolling, you have to be timing your attacks, you have to be watching your enemy's movement. All of that is here, and it's great. On this game's intended difficulty, like without messing with any of the accessibility options, I will say that this game is tough at times. But it's never to a level of Dark Souls. And I don't think the game was trying to do that. I feel like this game was made for more of a entry point into the Souls genre, or just maybe a relaxed version. Yeah, you're still gonna die, yeah, you still have to try, but I wasn't really getting angry at this game. I was okay with most of the deaths that I had. There were a couple that were kind of bullshit due to some glitches, but man, I really liked it. It is simple but satisfying. You've got your fork, which is like just a one-handed sword. It's got your typical slashes and stuff. You have your shell. The shells can be swapped out for new ones. There are a ton, and I mean a ton of shells to choose from. A lot of them have their own unique abilities. Some share abilities with others depending on what type of shell it is. Also, the shells have a light, medium, and heavy weight attached with them that affect the dodge roll, so, you know, a lot like Dark Souls. And there's parrying in this game, which, in my opinion, I don't think you should ignore parrying and rely fully on your dodging. Parrying is extremely, extremely strong and made some of the later fights a lot easier than they probably should have been. Maybe I just got really good at parrying. I usually struggle with parrying in most games, like with Sekiro. I got my ass handed to me. I still haven't beaten that game, but in Another Crab's Treasure, I'm hitting these parries pretty well. And it feels good. The sound effects whenever you parry and just overall everything about the like little sounds you hear, really good, just like good feedback, you know? It feels like I'm hitting something, feels like I'm parrying something. It's really cool. I really enjoy it. So it's got the same kind of currency thing that Dark Souls has. So it has souls, but these are microplastics. So what you do with these microplastics is they're souls. You level up your character. As for build variety and, you know, options for build variety, it doesn't seem like this is that kind of game. It's more just like, what would you like to do more damage with? Your sword, your abilities? Would you like to have more stamina or health? And I mean, that's how it is in Dark Souls, but there's a little bit more to it. There is a magic bar. I never put any points into magic. I fucking loaded everything into strength, everything into vitality, and I whooped the game's ass. There's also a skill tree that you have where you go around the world collecting these crystals. You can either get them from defeating bosses or smacking these giant crystals. They break away, and then, you know, you get the crystals. You could spin these over at the Moon Snail place. I don't remember what it was called, but it's the Moon Snail place. You can go and upgrade these. Don't worry about where you put these because, at least in my playthrough, I was full by the end of the game. I had unlocked all of these by the end of the game. It wasn't really that difficult. I wasn't going out of my way to look for crystals. If you just progress through the game pretty normally and fight all of the bosses, even additional side bosses, you will be able to unlock everything. There's a lot of really cool abilities in here. Like, for instance, the parry ability is in here. It's one of the first ones you can unlock. There's also one where you can turn your fork into a hammer by using a shell on the end of your fork. Is a big, heavy two-handed weapon. It is super satisfying. There are these things called stowaways, which are your rings. These have a ton of different little passive abilities. You can go into more stuff. Like, you want to be more defensive, you can go more into that. You want to do more damage, you can go into that. You want to do more damage with the hammer ability? Yeah, you can do that. There's a lot of these. You can upgrade the amount of slots you have by going and talking to one of the little NPCs at the main hub town. I won't get into too much details about why we're at the hub town or whatever. Now back to the shells real quick. The shells are a pretty big part of this game. Different shells, depending on what the shell is, it will have different abilities, different types of rolling, or no rolling, or dodging, but different dodging, and then abilities, or like passive heal. There's a lot. The shells are fucking cool. And there's a lot of them. I think there's like 69 of them. They put the funny number. There's 69 shells. And dude, there are so many funny ones to find. You can have stuff from a toilet paper roll to like empty cans, light bulbs, even some really cool secret ones you can go find, like the Dark Souls reference helmet and all that. There's a lot of these and they're really cool. I love picking them up, trying out new ones, finding new ones, seeing what they do. One of them is a banana that you eat and then it regains health. You eat a piece of banana on your back, which I think is awesome. There's a few electric type ones. So like one of the cans allows you to apply like an electroshock to your shell. So when you block and the enemy hits your shell, it will electrocute the enemy, thus staggering them so you can go in and get a couple hits. It's really cool. There's a lot more to it. This is just surface level shit, but it's really cool. Now, as for a huge part, what makes a Souls game, the bosses. The bosses in Another Crab's Treasure go from pretty difficult to you're kind of just one trying them. And what do I mean by one trying them? I mean, you go into the boss fight for the first time and you win the first time. Usually with Souls games, you're gonna die a few times before you get the hang of the boss, you learn the boss's moves. But in this game, the bosses were not as difficult as Souls bosses, and once you were stronger and had more abilities, you were able to really take advantage of those and kick the boss's ass. I'm sure new players will still struggle with this if you've never played a Souls-like game, which is fine, completely normal. Just take the game at your own pace and try to learn it. These games can be very frustrating at times, but if you just sit back, keep your composure, and take on the task and defeat your enemy. So the length of this game is around 10 to 12 hours, depending on how good you are at the game, depending on how you know to get around the game. If you're new to the game, it may take 15 hours. For me, I went back and finished every single boss that I had missed. There are 20 bosses to go hunt down. The boss fights in this game go from epic to kind of, there's a couple bosses that are a little lame, but it's not a big deal. They still look cool, and the boss like lines that they spout out while they're fighting you is still very funny.
Laws off, lawbreaker! You think yourself above the law, but the law is not so easily outwitted. Lawbreakers!
There were some fights that were obviously better than others. One of my favorite bosses you come up against is pretty early on in the game. You get access to this big open area and you have to head a certain direction. However, if you stray off of the path, this big fucking crab will come out of the ground and stomp your ass. And he will hunt you down wherever you are if you do not stay on the path. There's this little path, and sometimes even if you're on the path, it comes and gets your ass anyway. But I really like this because it felt like every time I was in this zone, until I felt like I was powerful enough to take on the boss, I just kind of would run away from him, hide, just try to keep moving, because he would just stomp you. Real quick before we end the video, I did run into some pretty bad bugs in the game. The game is pretty glitchy at times. There were multiple times where I got clipped through a wall due to an enemy hitting me through a wall, and I would actually phase through it and not be able to get out. There were times where enemies would throw me up into the sky and I would get stuck. There were more than a couple of times where my character got stuck in a terrain or like wedged in between two rocks, and I'd have to die and then reset. Just little tiny annoying things. I mention it because it was annoying in the moment. I was like, fuck, come on, I'm gonna have to go through all this again, whatever. Very annoying in the moment, but I'm sure they will patch it out and fix it up. It did not take away from the overall experience. I still kept playing. This was just more of a bump in the road rather than something that fully stopped the game. But it's something to mention, and I hope they do fix it. Also, I played this game on PC with Game Pass because it's on Game Pass. I used keyboard and mouse to play through this game. For keyboard and mouse players out there, this game has very good keyboard and mouse controls. You can rebind all your keys and all that. The mouse feels great. And overall, I thought the game was perfectly fine playing it on a keyboard and mouse. I know a lot of people like to play with controllers, but me, I prefer to play keyboard and mouse, so luckily this game had good keyboard and mouse controls. In ending this video, I really hope we get more games like Another Crab's Treasure, because man, the heart and soul in this game is just overwhelming at times. It feels like the devs really cared about what they were making. They wanted it to be fun, they wanted it to be a good game, but they also wanted to tell a great story. You don't get that a lot with these kind of games. Right now, Another Crab's Treasure is retailing for $29.99, and in my opinion, I think the 15 to 20 hours you can get out of this game is well worth the asking price. I wouldn't even wait for a sale. I would put Another Crab's Treasure pretty high up on the tier list of non-FromSoft Souls-likes, as it was just a great experience. I loved it from start to finish. I will definitely be returning to Another Crab's Treasure to replay it, probably in a year or so. But with that out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm gonna move on to my next game. Peace out, gamers.